What do you know, when Elon keeps talking about that at some point, this is going to be the largest asset increase, and he's referring to that when people realize that Tesla cars, which are all Robotaxi capable, that all have the FSD, equipment, that their price of that car, both used and new, will skyrocket, right? I think I might have even heard him say 5 times the worth, the price could go up. When will that happen? Well, when he talks about the price appreciation, when people realize that your car can actually be part of the Robotaxi program, when would the prices jump up for Tesla cars?
I think as soon as all the cars could be on the network, because that's when it becomes tangible.
Okay, so you think it's as soon as the cars are able to be added to the network? Yeah. Cern Basher was saying that even if you live in another city, even if you don't have FSD, as part of it, people will come knock at your door and says, "Can I buy your car?" For let's say $100,000, because I'm going to take it down to Austin and put it in the Robotaxi network and make 30 grand a year. So even if you don't know anything about it, you'll get that knock on the door. Is what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, it'll open up a whole different market, and it'll be completely different too. Because if you're putting your own car in there, you can always take it out. So it's kind of like you can put yourself into like a Uber-like situation, but you don't have to do the driving. So I think it opens up a completely different type of business where you're just lending out your car on a Robotaxi. You don't have to worry about someone else borrowing it and stealing it or crashing it. Like, the liability is a little bit different. There's often the rental cars have issues because some other person's driving it, there's an accident or whatnot, then you're the owner. So it's an interesting kind of setup that's gonna really change the ride sharing business.
Mm-hmm. I got to think a little bit some more. I think your answer is good though, which is when consumers can add their cars to the Robotaxi network, that's when the prices jump. You don't think it might happen ahead of that, in preparation for that? Like I personally bought 2 extra cars, 2 extra Teslas this year, because I figured they're not just the expense. They're going to be a revenue generating sometime in the future. Yeah, so I did. Of course, I did it, but I don't think anybody else has done that, right? Very few.
Whoa. Are you trying to? I have 2 vehicles. I don't move. They just sit out there. What do you think? Why do you think we're doing this?
That's what you're doing. Yeah. So you got 2 Cybertrucks. You got a semi on order. You're just weird.
I know, but like the reality is, one of the reasons, so I can give these, like the Cybertruck to my dad, the Model Y to my mom, but I risked holding on to them because I want to see what does the business model look like. Like I don't want to let the Model Y go at like a $15,000 loss below my loan amount, or 10 or whatever it is nowadays, and then turns out that the vehicle becomes an asset producing, or an income producing asset. So right now it's still a depreciating asset, and it's stupid because it's a monthly payment that's a waste, insurance that's a waste, and but it's definitely good to be hopeful. And if it's only to June.
So when do you think that this asset appreciation will happen for both used car, all Teslas?
Well, I think if they get rid of the $7,500 incentive, that'll bring back half of the value that's gone, because you get this discount. So that was not good for used prices. And then it's just a question of, I think, as soon as that event happens, and we can, an investor can make a decision on, if they're going to acquire vehicles for a fleet, because that's what they want to do, is they want to be a sheep herder, then that's when it'll happen. When, time wise, I can't begin to venture guesses. July, maybe.
Yeah, actually, I for some reason at the 4th quarter earnings call, I remember Elon saying that customers won't be able to add their cars. You can add and remove them from the network, I somehow heard it as second half of next year, 2026. But actually, I asked Grok again, and it said that no, they just said 2026. Do you guys remember exactly when we would be able to add our cars in?
I don't even call him.
And that would only be, yeah.
Yeah, he's been, because people called him out so much on the FSD updates on the timeline. I don't think he gave a timeline, but he said sometime, kind of more generic thing. But he said that's the goal. I didn't remember him saying a particular year.
Yeah, it's 2026. But yeah, okay. So maybe I misheard him when I thought he said second half of next year.
Yeah, but to answer your question, the thing that matters isn't when you can actually add the vehicle onto the network. It's a question of knowing that you can add it onto the network.
Okay.
Well, and then knowing the relative prices, right? It's like you can't really model
Exactly.
something. So, but I know for sure that when you can add it, we'll know all the information. So
Theoretically, sometime next year is when that you can guarantee that Tesla prices will go up, or not guarantee, but I mean expect it to start happening. And then, how much do you guys think it will be? The jump in price.
I mean, I expect that to be higher than now. So
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, if it depends on what you're estimated, right? Like you said, how much? If you're making 30 grand a year, that's full time, then you'd probably be willing to pay at least $100,000 for the car. Yeah. You know, the interesting question is whether or not you would depreciate or take the car and amortize it for. Some people are like going, oh, it doesn't matter if my Waymo costs 200 grand or 150 grand because I'm going to amortize it for 15 years. Well, no, you can amortize it for 3 years. You know, most of these rental cars, they're done in 2 or 3 years. But if you choose a number, 3 years, 5 years, then you go, okay, how much can I make? 30,000 per year? Is it 15,000 a year? What is it I can make per car?
Yeah, I mean, you calculate ROI the way you calculated any ROI is how many years are you going to not make any money, and then you want to own the asset for 5 or 7 years after that just prints cash flow for you. So it's a question of risk, and most people going into something new and unknown like this, I don't think are going to do that. It's going to be entrepreneurial types that would that can buy vehicles, and if you don't have a long enough, right, because if just like we saw with buying Teslas in general, they can cut the price and they can change the model, and then that can impact your calculations. So if you're not in control of that, you have to apply a premium to that risk calculation.
But then, if it is true that Tesla prices go up, then wouldn't the TAM go down? People can't afford it anymore again. Like, will they continue selling at the current price points? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You mean selling the vehicles, or selling like FSD and what's associated with it?
If you can buy a Tesla today at $40,000, will you still be able to buy a Tesla a year from now at $40,000 if they've proven that you can make 30 grand a year putting in the Robotaxi network?
I think it's a question of supply and demand. If they can supply enough vehicles and their goal for the vehicle is to bring down costs, I think the vehicle costs themselves are going to continue to go down, right? They want to scale, and but the cost of FSD, right? Like they might say it costs $1,000 a month to to put your vehicle on the network,
Right.
or they're going to add some kind of barrier to entry because they wouldn't want to flood the market with too many too much competition all at once. So I think, and in order for them to scale that, they have to they need to be able to insure the vehicles. So that's something that we need to look at, and then also if their production of vehicles in the factories, they have so much capacity, then there's no supply issue. So I don't think that the prices would spike unless demand goes off the charts, which that is the argument, right? That's the question. That's the unknown question.
Yeah.
Well, it's also two different aspects. If you're talking about a personal vehicle being added on, I think that that's a SaaS business where you're adding yourself to a network on a digital app, right? Versus the mechanical part of production, unless it's like purely cybercab, that may have a inflection to it. But in terms of like your personal vehicles, I think it's a separate business.
Bradford, welcome. What have you been thinking about these days?
Well, you got me thinking about this question. So I was wondering, like, is Tesla going to keep all the robotaxis to themselves? Because when they do that, they get to keep the full revenue of $2 a mile. They have their costs, but it's super juicy for them economically. And I think they have to open it up to Tesla owners because they can only scale so quickly. So, like, let's say the whole mechanism of doing trips is successful, then, bare minimum, they need like charging infrastructure and they need somebody to do the charging, and, having someone to plug them in isn't a big deal. But like, if you're suddenly running 9,000 of these in a city, you can't just charge them all in one spot. So I think you have to open this up to Tesla owners where people can charge them at home, just bare minimum, because I think the system's ready, and you all got me thinking about this, and I think they will open it up.
Well, Bradford, I pinned a Tesla post from 8 hours ago to the top of the space, and it reads, with the Robotaxi network, your Tesla will be able to earn money while you're not using it, essentially paying it for itself. It will go to work, just like you. Well, first of all, I resent that last part where it makes me go to work. I don't want to do that. But also, more importantly, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on the internet, or at least Grok does, and I could tell you that from my intro to business class, this is causing reliance. Now that they're making these kinds of statements and claims, I, as someone who will buy a vehicle, will then go like, whoa, hold on a second. Here's a post from, May 13th, that you told me. I relied on this post to make this purchase. I waited a sufficient amount of time for you to be able to deliver, and now you're saying that I can't? And I think this comes down to all of their statements, like all Tesla vehicles will be able to go on the network, which is why they have to upgrade, to the latest hardware for anyone who owns the software outright, because there was reliance at that time for purchasing FSD, because you were promised this $30,000 number at some point in the future. It's not necessarily right away, but in the future, we have to actually be able to deliver on these claims.
Yeah, I don't think there's a debate. I personally don't think that they're gonna not let people who have a Tesla put it in the network. It's done. Like, they've already announced that so many times. The question is future cars that they make. All the new cars that they make next year, are they all going to continue selling that to new customers? Or will they just put into the Robotaxi network if they've already expanded city by city by city and they want to just expand as fast as they can? Every car that they might do both, right? They might still sell some cars that they want to sell, and other cars, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it for the network. I'll keep it. I own it. I asked CERN, by the way, to do this analysis. He might do it in the next show. I asked him, what is the impact to Tesla as a business in their cash, in their asset, right? How much money could they actually produce a car, not sell it, and keep it themselves? What is the impact of their business, right? Because that's the argument. Some people say, no, they can't afford that. They need to have somebody pay them that money or pay them the the lease over the time so that they can get the cash as fast as possible. CERN's initial reaction is actually that the impact to Tesla is not as much as you think it is. There's a lot of tax consequences. So you should nail this down precisely too. What is the impact?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a great exercise. Ultimately, do we? Does Tesla need to not sell vehicles? I think like that line of thinking is for city dwellers. They're not going to be able to produce enough vehicles when in most of America, you're still trying to convert into EVs, let alone have just this flood of robotaxis piloting everywhere. I mean, maybe, but I just don't see it like immediately. I think it's
A mixture.
I think it's a 5-year horizon where we even worry about the car business. Go ahead, Bradford.
Yeah, so it cost Tesla $3 billion to. Oh, hang on one sec.
Great. We're all waiting for Bradford.
I'm grabbing some food.
Yeah, I figured.
Is it
$3
healthy?
billion? No, not healthy. It's bad.
Boo.
$3 billion for 100,000 Model Ys, and they have 38 billion in cash right now. So they can make 100,000 for themselves pretty easy without even thinking about it. But then, okay, if you're running customer cars now, I think you can charge $2 a mile easy, up to like 1 million robotaxis. In that case, Tesla's going to collect 60 cents a mile, and I think insurance is going to cost about 13 cents. So Tesla, on an incremental basis, should net 47 cents per mile for customer cars. And the customer, my estimate is that the customer's going to net about 80 cents.
Jesus.
Per mile. Let's say like 2/3 of the miles are useful.
Isn't that as much as an Uber driver gets now? But
the Uber driver is like using their own time.
Yeah, you were Uber driving just to test it out, right? To figure out the whole business model. You were doing this?
Yeah.
You're weird. You're crazy, dude. The things you do.
Well, I wanna learn about the market, and I think Tesla is gonna eat Uber's lunch.
No kidding. Okay, but how much money do Uber drivers make, and how much would if I put my car in and I'm not even there at all, how much do I make? You said 80 cents, something like that. Is it equivalent? Is it more than Uber drivers?
Yeah, Uber drivers don't make as much anymore.
Yeah, and then think about if you're not exchanging your time for money, you don't need all you care about is an ROI calculation that you could make. So you might want some sort of guarantee from Tesla, like, hey, we're these are the prices. We're not going to touch. Not that we're going to get it, but that's the kind of line of thinking. So if in the beginning, all the risk is on Tesla. They have to prove that the software is safe to the what are the actuators? Not actuators.
Actuaries.
Actuaries. Thank you. I was on the right track. To the actuaries, right? So, and it's as Buffett said, it becomes not a. Or actually, it wasn't Buffett. It was his general. It becomes a matter of product liability insurance and not humans hitting things. So if you get the human out of there and it is much safer, and the only accidents that are caused are the other insurance company's fault, and you could provide the evidence, of course, then in the beginning, Tesla needs to recoup their investment, and so I don't think it's going to be super attractive to the investor. I think it'll be on Tesla's shoulders to prove it out, and then the speculators, like we'll have a little bit of speculation, but I don't think there's going to be so many speculators that are going to like want to risk capital for an unproven business. At least that's what I think.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like. You guys saw the Czech Republic said that they passed a law that will come into play in January 2026. But I thought that their requirements was interesting, and they basically said that if your car goes into Robotaxi and it gets into an accident, it is the vendor's fault, and they will have to pay for it, unless the vendor flashes a warning sign. If they did that, then you should have taken over, right? The driver, you're the driver, you need to take over. And if they did that, then you're at fault and you have to pay for it. And so unless you can prove that the car was in autopilot or, full self-driving, then you don't have to. And then if that get into an accident, then you're not liable. So I thought that was a very easy. Now I think this is just a transition, right? This is between a driver, a supervised FSD model. What happens when it's unsupervised, when it's fully Robotaxi? Clearly, the vendor is responsible for all accidents. And then, you would share revenue with the owner of the car. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Bradford.
And right now, Uber pays for the insurance. So I think Tesla is going to pay for the insurance as part of the 30% that they're taking.
Yeah.
Where do you get the 30% number? Is that like just a guesstimate?
That was something that Elon said on Autonomy Day a very long time ago, 2019. But I do, if I'm not rugging, so like I do think it's attractive for everybody. So like Tesla gets 60 cents out of $2. I think insurance will be 13 cents a mile, 1.3, and the owner of the car gets $1.40 per billable mile. But 2/3 of them are only 2/3 of them are billable. So effectively, you're getting a little under $1 per mile, which is super attractive. So it's good for everybody.
But why are you using the $2 a mile number?
Because Uber charges more than that now, and Tesla can easily just come under what Uber is charging, and people would gladly pay it all day for a while. Like, bare minimum, a million Robotaxis on the roads. I think the $2 a mile will hold unless for some reason there's a slow adoption.
Well, the other part is if you're talking about paying for a person who putting their personal car into the network, well, their own cybercab doesn't require that, right? They own their own vehicles, so they would take the entire 140 that you're talking about.
No, they would just take the two. And
they take the $2, and they'd still have to pay for insurance. They'd have to pay for charging. I think cleaning's overblown. So it's not like there's a Minecraft chicken jockey reenactment in every Uber ride. So like, I think it's a rare case where people spill something in your car and you got to deal with it.
That's not what I've been hearing. People tell me before. Remember, people used to say, "You don't realize I put my car into Turo. You don't realize how dirty this thing becomes." Regular people will not want to put their cars in.
Well, I mean, like you might not want to put your car in at 2 a.m. for the drunkies, but most of the people, and here's JC with actual experience, maybe he can chime in. But I think that you're not. Like you're going to be selective. You might be very glad to put your vehicle to go and run to the airport and pick people up, but you'll maybe an exclusionary zone like no 6th Street because gross.
Guys, we have to give applause to these Tesla community members, JC, Omar, Bradford. These guys actually became Uber drivers, so just so they can understand the business model and report to us. You guys are crazy. JC. What the friggin'? What are
What's
you doing?
up? What's up? How are you?
You've
Yeah,
learned a ton. What have you learned?
I've learned a lot, and it's yeah, it is first of all, I've learned that Tesla AI, they deserve so much credit. I mean, I can't speak to any other geographical location other than Houston, Texas, but I'm on 13.2.8 on an AI 4 Model 3, and FSD has just been fantastic. I mean, it's every ride I do about 20 to 25 rides a night from about
What?
8 p.m. Yeah,
What? No,
I'm
no.
going pretty hard in the paint, Herbert.
20 rides a night.
Hey, the strippers got to get between the clubs, man. They get those 1099s in
Oh,
several
I
places.
thought it was like a money issue, but apparently it's a different issue.
Well, that's what I'm telling y'all. 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Like everybody's talking about the commuter crowd. I'm sorry, Herbert. I probably
Uh,
just took your space
no,
down
no.
to the.
Oh
My
God, this is
bad.
what I want to hear. Keep
I
going.
mean,
Keep
but
going.
it's just reality. I mean, y'all want to talk about the
Yes.
Robotaxi economics. Let me know if y'all need me to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
out, leave the speaker board. But I can speak to the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. crowd. And yeah, it's just been phenomenal. I mean, FSD does every drive with zero interventions. I mean, at this point, it's just the pickup and drop off, right? So,
Mhm.
it's still hit or miss in the parking lots, as everybody knows, and then just pulling over to get to a specific spot to pick somebody up and then drop them off. It's that first and last final feet, but 5 feet. But the drives themselves, and people are just getting blown away, Herbert. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody that gets in. I mean, I will say 70. What I can tell you emphatically after 400
Mhm.
rides in the 400 plus rides in the last month, 70% of people just want to get into an Uber and they don't want to know you. They don't want you to talk to them. So the cyber cab is going to be, especially females, like females that are by themselves, leaving work, going home. The TAM it's out there. But yeah, Tesla AI is doing great. The TAM is definitely there. I can't really speak to other times of the day. I haven't really started looking. I think maybe the second month I'll switch over to the business commuter crowd and
Do they
whatnot.
take?
But the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. crowd has been so fun, Herbert, that I've stuck with it.
JC, is there any like YouTube channel I can go watch these rides of
Oh
these
yeah,
of these strippers? I mean, of these clients for Uber?
I put them directly on X too. I put
Oh,
my
baby.
videos. In fact, I had an OnlyFans model in my Tesla just a couple of nights ago. I've pretty much anybody you think might need an Uber between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. They've been in my Tesla. They
For
all love,
research.
and in a serious note, I have had nothing except for one writer, and I posted
Mhm.
that video as well. I've had one writer
Mhm.
who gave me the whole, Elon is a Nazi thing.
Mhm.
And, I just had to kind of sit there and be a punching bag for about 15 minutes. But she ended up even being, now she said, yeah, after all of that, she was like, but damn, this is such a beautiful car. I love this car. And it's
Mhm.
like, so you just spent the last 15 minutes bashing the dude that makes the damn thing. And but anyway, of that, it's overwhelming. Just the people they love the Tesla. They think when they see a Tesla pull up for them, it's like a highlight. For most of them, they've never even been in one.
Mhm.
Here's the thing, though, Herbert, that's kind of interesting. When I ask people what they think my car cost, the range is between 100,000 and two
Right.
hundred thousand.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling, and granted, this is Houston, right? We're not in EV Central. This is probably one of the least EV friendly big cities in the country. So you've got that. All my riders, I'd say 99% of my riders are first time in a Tesla, let alone first time experiencing FSD. But they seriously believe my car is $150,000. So when I tell them that you could get the exact same car I'm in for 34,000, they're blown away. They don't know. They absolutely have no clue. They think that Teslas are still, these $200,000 roadsters. That's kind of the mental image they have of Tesla. But no, Herbert, sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your
No,
space,
that's
but
good. Keep going.
it's been
So,
excellent.
yeah, you've insisted to use FSD all the time, right?
I use
And
it
do they
100%
know?
of the time.
Do
Yes.
they know you're
Well, the
using it? Yeah.
70% that get in and just
They
want
don't
me
care.
to shut the hell up and get
Yeah,
them from point A to point B without killing them,
yeah.
they generally, I can kind of tell that they're looking but they don't say anything, but I have not had one person
Where do you put your
ask.
hands? Or is it like on your lap, or is it like right on the steering wheel?
I usually put them on either on my lap or I put them on the hand console so they can easily tell I'm not driving.
Oh my gosh.
Like they know I'm not driving.
That's
They either
right.
just
10 and 2, JC.
That's
Keep
right.
away from the passengers' laps.
You don't think that?
Jesus.
Yeah,
Better.
let me reiterate. My hands are always in my
My
lap.
lap.
My lap. Although I've gone through Montrose and I've had some offers for anyway. That's
Okay,
anybody knows
that's
Houston
gone
knows
too
what I'm
far
talking
there.
about there.
JC,
Wow.
is there a college town part to Houston? Because Austin has University of Texas. I'm guessing there's a ton of demand for that. I got dumped out in Bloomington, Indiana, which is where Indiana University is. I had an airport ride that took me to Bloomington. It's like an hour and a half from my house. And there was a ton of rides in Bloomington because it's a college town.
Yeah, Houston has two big. There's several colleges, but there's two very big ones. The University of Houston is about 40,000 students, and they have a huge campus about 5 miles from downtown Houston. I do lots of rides between downtown and University of Houston. The kids want to come into the downtown area to go party, and then around 2 or 3 a.m., I take them back to the campus. The other campus is Rice University. It's not as big. Those kids don't seem to party. They seem to be like staying on the campus and studying. They're probably the ones working at Tesla AI now. So,
Sure. What's the next city in Texas after Austin? Would it be Houston?
I
You
think
know-
it might be San Antonio because it's an hour and a half away from Austin. But you could go Houston or you could do Dallas, Fort Worth.
I'm thinking Dallas, Herbert, and the reason why is because there's many more Teslas in Dallas. Is much more of a God. I hate to use it because I'm a Houstonian, but it's a more affluent kind of professional, financial sense. There's a lot of Teslas there. A lot of folks adopted Tesla early on. Houston is much more of a blue collar town. Like I can literally be the only Tesla driving around.
But
Sometimes.
you said that you're using FSD 29 times a night, and I guess what I'm asking is whether or not Tesla would need to fit
No.
FSD to Houston.
No, they don't need to do a damn thing. It's working great. I just think in Dallas, there's probably more people that know about Tesla, and that it would be much quicker to scale in a place like Dallas. Houston's just going to be because it's not the folks they just don't know about it. The folks do not, like I said, most of the people that get into my Tesla.
Which one is more of a grid city?
Houston.
That's what I mean, though, right?
More of a grid.
They might go with something that's less.
Yeah, Houston is definitely an easier town to drive in than Dallas, just from a grid perspective. When I think of like scaling up, though, I'm just thinking about like obviously San Francisco is a very difficult town geographically to drive in, but there's a shit ton of Teslas. I'm sorry, Herbert.
no
There's a
problem.
lot of Teslas, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a ready market to scale there. Houston's on the opposite end. It's an easy town to drive in from a grid perspective, but there's just no brand awareness here. Literally,
It's Waymo there. Waymo's there. So
no, Waymo's not here.
Oh,
I have a better chance of Bigfoot running out and jumping on my Tesla on I-45 than seeing a Waymo here.
Okay, good. Okay. You're doing God's work, JC. Thank you for doing all this. And then Bradford, crazy.
Love you,
dude.
Herbert.
He's doing it too. And then
Yeah,
Omar.
I'd say one other advantage Austin has is like a bunch of tech companies moved from California to Austin.
Yeah, no, for sure. Austin. That's why they're doing it there. No, yeah. Yeah. Omar, where are you? Are you in Oklahoma? You're one of the handful of people that got the new update, the dot release. Is there anything new there?
Are you stalking him?
Yeah, I'm just in California right now.
He posted and he said he's in Oklahoma. I thought
That's probably days old. Do you think he wants stalkers to know exactly where he is? Like, what is this, Elon jets?
whatever.
Yes, I'm here in LA. I have been using the latest update. It is a a sort of iterative refinement on 13.2.8. It's a little smoother. It's a little more refined. Some of the behavior at the end of the drive seems to be a little bit improved. It does seem to be trying to park more. But nothing earth shattering. It seemed to be a big improvement on Cybertruck as well. So I think they have more updates coming, some bigger updates, but they wanted to get this out there to fix some issues for people as well.
Yeah, so you're in the camp that this was just the small fixes, that they're not going to launch the one that you had another post. These were the list of upcoming improvements that we've been expecting, but they're not going to do that. They're going to launch in Austin in June. They're going to make sure that works. Everybody's 100% focused on that, and then maybe like the month later or two, then they'll add it for us, right?
Yeah, I think they're definitely focused on the launch in June, and they really want to hit that as the first priority. I think people are pretty happy with the update they have. I think they'll be even happier with this new update. And there'll be version 14 and the things from the upcoming improvements and other stuff. Cybertruck is going to get summon, it's going to get reverse, it's going to get the start FSD button. Those things are also going to come to hardware 3 as well. So there's a lot of good software improvements for the existing cars in the pipeline, but they do have to sort of choose, I think, where they allocate their compute capacity. So I think those things are taking a backseat to the Austin launch in the short term.
Mm-hmm. And then you've been also testing Uber. What's your analysis of the Uber drives, and how does FSD been performing?
Well, if you don't believe that they can do rideshare, go sign up for Uber and just try it. I call it the easiest job in the world. You just sit there and do nothing. You push a few buttons on the screen. And, so I posted a video recently. I'm not doing it that much. I'll just, test it every once in a while. So I did an hour and I did 3 rides in an hour. And drove to the pickup spot, picked him up, dropped him off, drove to the next pickup spot, dropped him off. 3 people. I didn't touch anything. So it's not hard to believe that future versions of the model are going to be able to do what the existing version of the model is already doing, even better. So I think that is, just pretty interesting to see. Obviously, there's a lot of execution involved in actually getting it launched unsupervised, but I think they're on a good track to do that. And you can see that even with the publicly released software. It was interesting driving for an hour, and I got paid about $20 here in Los Angeles. But Uber collected, I think, $66 in fares from the passengers. And they said most of that was going to insurance, commercial liability insurance. So it's pretty interesting when you just sort of look at the economics of that ride and how much Uber's taking versus how much the driver's taking. So yeah, I think there's an enormous market here for consumer rideshare that's ripe for the taking.
I saw that you posted you dropped off using Tesla FSD. You dropped off a passenger at LAX, and then Tesla themselves forwarded that, and then Elon himself forwarded that, saying that LAX is no problem for FSD supervised. Is the airports an example of like what you need to fit if you're going to expand Robotaxi to a new airport, or to a new city, you need to understand, how does the airport work? Where did it go? How does the Teslas understand that in Seattle, you as a rideshare need to go to the 3rd floor of the parking garage, but in LAX, you go somewhere else?
So they added a sub-destination feature recently. So I can, for example, type in LAX into my nav system and it'll say, okay, you want terminal 2, you want terminal 3, you want arrivals, you want departures. So the a airport or whatever, the mall will be able to set these sub destinations, and people will be able to pick them, and it'll know how to get there in its mapping system. So this wasn't an Uber passenger or anything. This was just, me dropping off and picking up friends and family from the airport, which is something that I do regularly. But normally FSD can drive you to the airport, but then you kind of have to pull over yourself and you kind of have to get back on the road yourself. Well, now it'll actually drive all the way to the airport, pull up to the curb, park. The person gets out of the car. You push the blue button again and it pulls right out of the airport. So there's no adjustments needed. It's remarkable how well it works in 13. So again, I don't think it's hard to imagine a Robotaxi doing a ton of airport pickups and drop-offs because the current model can already do it. So there isn't a ton of adaptation that's needed. I mean, maybe you need to give it the locations, but just sort of out of the box, the model seems to be able to know how to pull over at the airport and know how to pull out of the airport. And if you've ever been to LAX, it's like the worst place in the world to drive. It's, it's very challenging for any system, let alone a computer vision based system. So the achievement of getting a model that can actually navigate LAX reliably, it can't be understated. Nobody has ever demonstrated anything like that in the history of, computer vision.
Yeah. Omar, do you have a guess or do you have any kind of thinking about when will Tesla allow customer cars to be put into the network of the Robotaxi once that gets going?
I think they're gearing up to do exactly that. So if you look at the service in Austin, they are just using regular Model Ys. There are going to be people in Austin who have that exact same car. So why can't they add their car to the network? They probably could. I think it makes sense to start with the fleet of their own vehicles just for these initial tests to kind of see how things go. If that goes well, then naturally, I think you want to expand it and allow customers to put their cars onto the network. And then, one of the big questions, which is going to be interesting to see them answer, is are people going to be able to join the network and give supervised rides? Kind of like what JC and Bradford and others are doing on the Uber network using FSD. But if they could do that and launch their rideshare network nationwide, it could be very interesting for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, isn't there like some of the code that was discovered kind of hinting at that?
Well, we can see from the mobile app code that there's a button called Call Driver.
Yeah.
So, that could just be for right now, they have the safety drivers in the car, or it could be that they plan to do a sort of supervised rideshare. I think it could be a really good way to launch the rideshare service nationwide, get people to start using it, and at the same time, have the drivers use FSD. It could work exactly like a Robotaxi, except that there's a person in the seat for legal reasons. And then when you can show that they're never having to intervene and there are never any serious safety incidents, well, then, what's the point of having the driver in there if the data shows that they're not intervening? Then you just remove the driver and you can start to launch all across the world, hopefully.
Yeah, the only thing about that idea is that they won't have, like, you want to launch city by city with enough, enough cars, right? Supply and demand to meet what's going on. You don't want to have just, I don't know, okay, we're going to launch in Seattle. How many people want to put in Seattle? And it's going to be fluctuating how many customers put in their cars versus not putting the cars. And they don't have cybercabs yet. They don't have their own customer cars ready to go there. They don't have approval for Robotaxi. It doesn't, I just don't think they should do it that way, but we'll have to figure this out a bit more.
I mean, I don't think it's just like going into it blindly. Supply and demand controls the market. So Uber was able to start this way using customer cars, and they used incentives. They raised prices. They offered drivers incentives to get on. So You're right. It is kind of a complicated endeavor and kind of a different business. So maybe they won't want to do supervised rideshare,
Hey,
but
must be an
they've got
announcement.
the
Huge spike in the SPY and Tesla. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so why? What does that mean? You said there's must be an announcement, or what? What are you thinking? Can't just leave us like that.
No,
Stock went
I
up.
have no idea. I'm just telling you what I see. Sorry, Omar,
What?
go ahead.
Okay, well, how much did the stock jump? By the way, this is being recorded on a Tuesday afternoon.
The SPY just jumped like from 586 or 586.85, like 50 cents, which, in a grand scheme is not a lot, but it's a big spike. So there's volume coming in.
Houston strippers are jumping into retail, and they're used to hodling. They're already used to hodling. They hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Omar.
No.
Yeah, sorry, Omar.
Where were we? So, I mean, like, yeah, we were just talking about whether or not they're going to launch a kind of like a ride-hailed human driver version of Tesla's Robotaxi.
Yeah, so they have the app built. The code is actually in the Tesla mobile app already. It hasn't been activated yet, so they have the app. They could do it if they want to, or they could just let it continue to happen through Uber. So we'll see what they do. If I had to guess, I'd say they're probably going to focus on driverless only. But if you ask me what they should do, honestly, maybe launching with the ability for random people to join, random customers to join and provide supply onto the network, even in areas where they can't be driverless yet. There might be some advantages to doing that too, but it's a complicated decision.
Yeah, I don't think so. I hope they don't, personally. Yeah. You need to keep the brand very clean and clear, right? So Tesla's Robotaxi program is no drivers. Simple as that. No drivers. And you can't be confusing people. Am I going to have a driver, not a driver? But yeah, it depends on how they think they're going to need to win a market or learn if they feel like they need that to learn. And I don't think they do, right? Because they don't need ride hail service to learn unless you think they do. Because is ride hailing a different driver than me driving around, just, consumers driving around the city?
Well, I think that they are going to be entirely driverless in the markets where they can be driverless, like Austin. The question really is, do you want to limit the rideshare network to only the markets where they can be driverless? Or do you want to start offering rides with the driver in other markets, similar to what Waymo did before they were doing driverless rides? They were giving a lot of rides with safety drivers. Then they moved to rider-only rides. It's really just about how quickly you want to expand the rideshare network.
Yeah, good point. And then we asked the question earlier, since you're here, I want to ask you this question, Omar. When do you think that Tesla cars value will increase?
Tesla cars' value will increase. The value of cars will never increase.
No. Remember how Elon says that it's going to be the largest asset transfer as soon as people understand that your cars can be added to a robotaxi network and your cars can drive itself?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Asset unlock. He didn't say transfer. That's the wealth transfer you're talking about. But he's referencing that now you go from a depreciating asset to an income producing asset. And so if you look at that in the limit in the far calculations, you can see where these things. If most people won't need to own a vehicle if it looks like Demolition Man, in the future, where nobody owns a car, you're getting picked up by a robotaxi. Why would you put this on your on your home balance sheet when you could just like I need to go to the airport now. If I'm parking there for 2 days, I'll pay the parking fees and it's a short trip, but I'm leaving the state for like 2 weeks. I'm going to take an Uber, or my wife will drive me. I'm not going to, park and just use that. So why would people do this in the future when you have this alternative to not front loading this convenience, when in reality, as long as you get what you want, which is from point A to point B, or, like you can, the whole car seat debate. Well, you can just own your car seat, and then the vehicle comes and you put in your car seat. Or you need to transport lumber, you call for the Cybertruck. You need to do so I think that in the future it's going to be silly to want to own vehicles unless that's your use case, is you're just always using your car for more than just A to B.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to imagine what's going to happen to vehicle prices. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different forces at play here. There's going to be sort of a massive disruption. I mean, I suppose if you have a car that's, worth $25,000 and it's depreciating in its liability and now it can produce tens of thousands of dollars of income, then the value of that asset does jump. But it's going to continue to depreciate with wear and tear, have expenses. Is the market going to be oversaturated? Is it going to be undersaturated? Depending on where you are, there may be a different answer there. If there's a $25,000 cyber cab that I can put out that can make a bunch of money for me and be lower cost to operate, do people really want to buy Model 3s and Ys? So it's a little bit difficult to predict. I mean, I think one thing we can say is that a fully driverless car would obviously be worth a lot more than one that is just manually driven. But how vehicle prices as a whole and the vehicle market responds to this, it's very, very sort of cloudy. The future that this technology is going to bring is going to change a lot. The auto market, as we think of it, may not exist in the form we think about today, where people are just buying and selling cars. I mean, if you can just call a ride and it's a few dollars, ordinary people probably won't be buying that many cars. So the market really becomes fleet operators looking at this from a very sort of numerical perspective. It's not about sentiment. It's not about I've always wanted a Mustang. It's just, dollars and cents. What am I putting in and what am I getting out? And they're going to be looking at the cost efficiency of buying a new cybercab versus buying a used vehicle. So it's really difficult to say with any certainty what the secondary market for vehicles is going to look like in the future.
Nice answer. Complete. Good perspective. Just this morning, earlier today, Tesla posted that with the Robotaxi network, your Tesla will be able to earn money while you're not using it, essentially paying for itself. It will go to work just like you. Of course, this is a global statement, so they have to prove that out in China and any country that they sell the car to. But that's the future. But here in Austin, it's going to happen in just 2 weeks. So this is, well, maybe not June 1st, right? We don't know it's June 1st. It could be somewhere in June. But it did hint that maybe it is June 1st. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Appreciate this. We'll close it down now. Appreciate you, Omar, Jeff, Xander. Thank you, Bradford, for joining us. Sat and JC, thanks for joining us. Thanks, everybody. See you guys next week. Bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.